This meeting is being held in conformance with the Sunshine Law. Notice of time, date, and place has been furnished to the Bergen Record and the Ridgewood News. Notice has also been posted on the bulletin board of the Administration Building. Would the clerk kindly take the roll?
Mayor Giordano.
I'm here.
Mr. Bjork.
Here.
Ms. Saracola.
Here.
Mr. Ritchie.
Here.
Mr. Schatz.
Here.
Mr. Shalero.
Here.
Mrs. Sherman.
Here.
Everyone kindly rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Let's have a moment of silence for our Waldeck veterans, all veterans across our country who have given the ultimate sacrifice to keep us free so that we could have meetings like we are having now. Amen. Clerk, kindly say the prayer.
Dear Lord, please impart to us your wisdom and guidance. Let not our decisions be self-serving, but fair and for the good of our borough. May we ourselves find unity in our endeavors, which would reflect an earnest effort to solve, assist, and be available. In his name, amen.
Amen. Good evening, all three residents of the Borough of Waldwick. Welcome to our meeting. I would like to start under the mayor's report, which I don't really have a report, but just on Friday, a young boy from our town came into town hall with his mother to pay a bill, and he wanted to see the man who was in charge. So Patrick brought him into the office, and he asked 1,001 questions about everything to do with everything of the town. And he was a very smart little boy. I think he was in 6th grade, he said, and he was very fascinated by being there. And we took a picture with him, and he said he'll be back. So hopefully he'll come back one day, maybe sit up here, but we don't know. And I don't remember his name. Do you remember, Patrick? No. And he was a nice little boy, and he was very excited to be there. And that's all I have to report.
You didn't take him to see Kelly?
I was just going to say, that's exactly what I was thinking. Touche, Paul.
Kelly was out feeding the poor. Kelly was doing the mission of God. But, you know, everybody goes to Kelly. Financial Administrative Committee, Mr. Shalero.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time of year where every meeting we're going to start reporting on budgets. What I can say tonight is you'll see on the consent resolution, we'll start having our budget meetings in February. They'll follow the regular council meetings. We will have one additional meeting, not on a council meeting day, but the Finance Committee will meet prior to that, and we'll start to have some discussions about what the budget's going to look like, what we're looking for, what our goals are, and kind of what our expectations are. So we're going to schedule that hopefully before we start looking at the budget as a full council, and look forward to getting underway with that process. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Fire and Police Protection Committee, Mr. Saracola.
Thank you, Mayor. So as of Friday, the fire department is at 17 calls for the month. The department had a motor vehicle accident last Thursday at East Prospect and Franklin Turnpike. Thankfully, there were no injuries, but they were dispatched for airbag deployment and fluid spill. On Saturday, 1:15, the tower ladder was requested as part of a county task force to the city of Passaic for an 11-alarm fire. Our tower responded with 6 members and operated in the city for just about 8 hours. While on scene, our tower flowed water continuously, continuing fire extinguishment for the city. As far as drills are concerned, it's the winter months, so the department has been inside. They've begun ice rescue refreshers and are hoping to get on the ice sometime this week, actually. They also began training on our newly constructed man versus machine kits and will continue training with those. Annual indoor classes will begin shortly as well. As for the police department, we had a couple of car burglaries with nothing taken, but the police department likes to remind residents to lock their cars and not to leave valuables and key fobs in the cars. Also, a reminder that during snowstorms, all cars need to be removed from the streets so the DPW can plow. That's all.
Thank you. Don't forget February 3rd, 8 o'clock. They're waiting.
I'll be there.
Very good. Public Safety Committee, Mr. Schatz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to just point out that I went to the ambulance corps meeting on the 17th, and we had just a couple of things that were brought up. They did have a new member that they were considering, and probably that'll be good if they added to the ranks. They did have 54 calls in December, and they were also voted in not voted, I guess they they announced the new staff for upstairs, or presidents and upstairs, and also the downstairs at the same time. And I'll talk about the environmental committee at the end of this.
Thank you. Recreation and Health Committee, Mrs. Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Board of Health meeting on January 20th. They held it virtually. They re-elected Kathy Hillringhouse as the president and re-elected Donna Palladino as vice president. Both are nurses. They reported that 80% of Waldwick is vaccinated and 98% had at least one dose of the vaccine. They wanted me to mention, as Kelly has put on the website numerous times, the mega site that is opened at Lord & Taylor's at the Fashion Center. They encourage our residents to look into that and get fully vaccinated and boosted. They did say the numbers for Waldwick are going down, but they encourage everyone to continue to be vigilant and wear your mask. They ran a health information desk at the Giant Market, and they found it very successful. They gave out backpacks and insulated cups, and people were very happy to get the free stuff, and they had little information booklets. And they are looking to restart the stigma-free program. So I'm looking for more information on that. Tonight we are appointing a new member, Allison Larrow. She was on the virtual meeting, even though she wasn't a member yet. She just wanted to see what we were all about. And under health as well, the rabies, the dog license is due to the borough by January 31st. So we encourage everyone to get their paperwork in to Kelly and Ken at the borough. And tonight on the ordinance, we're changing the late fee date from February 1st to March 1st. But they encourage people to get it in sooner than later. And if you check the website, which Kelly has also updated, and also the Facebook page, you will see rabies clinics that are being held in the area. The next one is January 29th in Westwood, and then there's additional ones you could check. They're all over the place, so get your dog vaccinated if the dog or cat is due. I wanted to mention the gazebo at Borough Park. I walked by today, and I'm very happy to report the gazebo has been, the graffiti has been erased from the gazebo. So I want to thank the DPW for that. And also to mention that the White's Pond is frozen over, but if you look closely, there's many areas where there isn't ice, and the borough is asking all residents to stay off of that pond so that our police officers and fire department do not have to risk their lives trying to pull you out of the broken ice. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, still winter, obviously, so I'd be remiss to remind everyone to please get their cars off the street when it snows. I think we've been fortunate the last couple of days we haven't gotten massive storms. I think the residents have done a good job of clearing their sidewalks. I may not look it, but I do get out for a run every day, and the sidewalks have been cleaned, so I'm thankful for that. The pothole by the 7-Eleven that came up at the last meeting, the county did fill that, so thank you, Patrick, for contacting the county and staying on top. Apparently there's another pothole that's formed just as quickly as they fill one in, another one forms. So if you drive by there and you hit a pothole, that's a new one. I'm assuming the county will take care of that one as well. We, as one of the efforts this year within the Public Works Department, we're looking into potential software that do a number of things like streamline work orders, increased civic engagement with submitting requests and things of that nature. And so Patrick had a chance to, I think, review a few options this week. There's another demonstration next week. So it's going to be an ongoing project that we'll talk about, especially as we get into the budgeting. I did have a chance to attend the Board of Education meeting last night. Just a couple highlights. The first is that the bids opened today for all of the work that will be performed based on that referendum. They hope to keep that open until March 1st and approve who would get that work by March 15th, they're hoping. They did indicate that the school nurses are a bit overwhelmed at the moment, and so they looked for a waiver to hire additional school nurses who don't have the school certificate for the remainder of the year. The Board of Education did take the initial steps to discuss processes on removing masks for the children at the school. As you can imagine, it was a hot topic for those in the crowd, both for and for against. I was just outright impressed at how the Board of Education handled that entire discussion, and I believe that they hope to have more information at the next meeting. That's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. York.
Thank you, Mayor. Patrick and I exchanged the list of all the buildings and grounds that the municipality has and is responsible for. I continue to review that and, make inspections of various buildings and grounds. To that matter, I went over with Patrick, I guess it was maybe Monday, and we took a look at the insulation project at the Public Safety Building. It's probably about 95% complete, and Chief Messner and Mr. Dowling were all happy with the progress. It really seems to have made things a little warmer and more comfortable in that building for them. As far as our building department, we've got a resignation coming up for the part-time fire inspector. I also was given a copy of Boswell's report on our dam at the end of White's Pond. It's a pretty extensive report. It was issued back in June, and I think it was like 60 or 70 pages. I've read it thoroughly. I spoke with Mike Latour about it, and I guess Patrick and I will continue to discuss the options for some maintenance and repairs there. As far as our parking lot, Patrick informed me that we've got to get some more paperwork taken care of before we can actually take ownership of that. Just a matter of some engineering drawings on I believe he said Mylar. And then Terry shared with me that the Lions Club bench was, I don't know if you want to call it vandalized, but somebody peeled off the Lions Club logo this time. They left the eyes this time on the Lions, so I guess that's a good thing. But if we can, keep an eye on that, so to speak, maybe we can prevent that from happening. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Borough Administrator Patrick.
No report, thank you, Mayor.
Borough Clerk Kelly. Nothing? Well, I do, but okay. Borough Attorney Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. No report.
Thank you very much.
I found it.
Too late.
Would you like to report?
Yeah, just briefly.
Sure.
We're going to be doing a place-to-place transfer for an expansion of premises for Waldeck Wine and Spirit. All the necessary paperwork has been filed and reviewed by myself and our borough attorney, so the New Jersey ABC is really just looking for the resolution from the council. We're going to introduce ordinance 2022-03. We're just simply collecting the fees too early before we can actually get in and start processing. So we've really just started processing this past week, really Friday, and then starting this week processing the dog application. So we have people calling saying, look, I paid you like 3 weeks ago. So Franklin Lakes and Wyckoff also does it this way, where their late fee doesn't kick in until March 1st, so that's really all I'm asking, to go from February 1st to March 1st. It'll give people an opportunity as well. There are several rabies clinics available to them. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Consent resolutions and resolutions of the governing body.
Be it resolved that the following resolutions herewith listed by consent, having been considered by the governing body of the Borough of Waldeck, are hereby passed and approved. 2022-89, approval of consent. 2022-90, approval of minutes, regular meeting, January 11, 2022. Policy votes: A, appointment of Matthew Feldman as junior member of the Waldeck Fire Department. 2020-291, award a non-fair and open professional service contract to Boswell Engineering for improvements to the Frederick Street and Harrison Avenue in the amount of $47,500. 2020-292, award a fair and open contract to Continental Fire and Safety, Inc. for lift bag, airbag system, and airbag system upgrades in the amount of $37,458.30. 2020-293, award a fair and open contract to Accent Enterprise, Inc. for 21 police tasers and equipment in the amount of $44,930.06. 2020-294, authorize acceptance of the 2021 Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund Municipal Program Grant for the municipal park improvements for the rehabilitation of Ted Bell Park. 2020-295, approval of the place-to-place transfer, which is an expansion of premise of liquor license 026433008-006 for Waldeck Wine Spirit 2, Inc. 2020-296, approval of special budget meeting on February 15, 2022. 2020-297, accept the resignation of Fire Inspector Samuel Pashak. 2020-298, appointment of Board of Health Allison Laro, and 2020-299, payment of vouchers.
Do we have a motion and a second to accept? Motion by Greg, second by Don. On the question, anyone? The Board of Health one, 2022-98, as Mr. Sherman said, Allison Lara is the manager of one of the banks. She came in here a couple of Fridays ago and introduced herself to us, and she said that she wanted to be involved in the community, at which time we knew that there was an opening on the Board of Health, and she said that she would be willing to step up and be a member of it, and she filled out the application, and now she is a member. So that's an appointment by the mayor, and the mayor and the council has to approve it. We have only one more opening on one of the boards, and we're trying to fill that. So but right now, all our boards have every member on it, except for one. And we'll be talking maybe a little bit about coming back. One of our boards are not in the building anymore. What they are is they're still on Zoom. That will be changing. We'd like to get everybody back in. What Patrick has done is he has ordered more microphones so that if you want to put other tables around, everybody can face themselves. So if you feel uncomfortable being close to someone, there'll be areas in which you could sit and have a microphone near you. But that's all hearsay right now because, every day what goes on in our world changes. So we have to play each day as it comes. Anyone else? Clerk, kindly take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Adoption of ordinances. Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-01 by title?
Ordinance number 2022-01, and ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-05, fixing the compensation, salaries, and wages of the officials and employees of the Borough of Waldwick for the Police Department.
Anybody from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? Scalero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and we did report on this last meeting when we introduced this. Of course, this is the process for approving ordinances, but what we had done was we renegotiated the contractual agreement with the police union in 2021 for the next several years, and each year we have to, by ordinance, affix the salaries that we agreed to. So basically, this ordinance sets salary ranges for each of the positions within the police department, and you'll see shortly we'll be awarding specific salaries for the next 4 years of this agreement.
Anyone else from the council? If not, I close the council's comments. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? If not, I close the public's comments and ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading and that the clerk be authorized to advertise it in local legal newspapers as required by law. Do I have a motion and a second? Don, second by Mike. Clerk, I take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Would the clerk kindly read 2022-100?
For Resolution 2022-100, approval of the public safety salaries for the years 2022, 23, 24, and 25.
Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Don, second by Terry. Anyone have a question on this? Don?
Yeah, just that, we passed the ordinance setting the salary ranges. Now this is setting the actual salaries for individual employees.
Anyone else? Clerk, kindly take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Our second public hearing, would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-02 by title?
Ordinance number 2022-02, and ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-04, fixing the compensation, salaries, and wages of officials and employees of the Borough of Waldorf. This is for the Department of Public Works.
Anyone from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? Schleier.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, again, this is the same for the Department of Public Works employees. We have a contract agreement with them. This sets the wage ranges for each of the positions within the department, and you'll see shortly we'll be approving the salaries for the individuals. But this is something we have to do, which basically sets the salaries for the various positions in the department.
Anyone else? If not, I close the council's comments and open up to the public. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? If not, I close the public's comments and ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading. At that end, the clerk be authorized to advertise it in local legal newspapers as required by law. Do I have a motion and a second? Don, and second by Terry. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Clerk, kindly read 2022-101.
This is Resolution 2022-101, approval of public works salaries for the years 2022, 23, and 24.
Do you have a motion and a second? Motion by Paul, second by Don. Anyone on the question? Don?
Yeah, again, Mayor, just to remind everyone, this sets the salaries for the individuals within the department for the next 3 years in alignment with the terms of the contract just negotiated in 2021.
Anyone else? Clerk, kindly take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Introduction of ordinances. Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2022-03?
Ordinance number 2022-03, an ordinance amending Chapter 48 fees, Section 42-3.1, dogs, late fees, to change the date late fee assessed per dog.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading, and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Greg, second by Katie. On the question. Kelly already spoke about this, and what they want to do is they want to move this from January to March, and also it allows the owners of the animals to get their rabies shots before they even come here. Because sometimes they come here in January and they need the shots. They have to go home. So now everything will be in unison with each other, and it'll give the clerk also's office enough time to get everything set up. Anyone else? Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Bjork?
Woof.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
That was a yes, but.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Anyone have unfinished business from the council? Yes, sir.
You had mentioned we're going to see a Boy Scout. Are we figuring that out? What happened to him?
Scout.
Oh, a Scout, a Girl Scout. That's
A Scout.
just a Scout. Are they coming in, or?
They were supposed to come in, and I guess she's not here.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll reach out to her and see what's going on. Maybe with the weather and everything, I don't know. I mean, she knows what she wants to do. I'll reach out to her and her father and find out what's going on for the next meeting.
Did they have a sponsor for the project? or-
She went through the.
Oh, she did all that. Okay. good.
Everything was set up for her to do it. All she needed is approval from us. I had to sign things for her once she came here and told us what she was wanting to do.
Understood, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. New business. Anyone from the council? New business.
I think Paul has some old.
I know you've been anxious.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that last week I also attended the environmental meeting. I attended the environmental meeting last week, and we also read in the new slate of persons. It's actually the same people, but it's a new slate there. We also talked about rain barrel education, also composting educations. We're trying to get together a lot of education for the upcoming year, starting with actually going to start on Earth Day, which is going to be April 23rd. The town is going to have an Earth Day presentation on the 24th? Yeah, I think it's the 24th, the day after. We're going to have a presentation down Borough Park, and they're going to bring up educational events, and we're going to And we're also, at that point, we're looking into getting more tree saplings so that we can give out those also at the same time. We made a decision on which ones we were going to pick. And we typically, he wasn't there, but we typically get our beekeeper, our resident beekeeper, usually tries to pick some of the trees that attract a lot more bees, and because he likes to have the bees around, so they to pollinate things. So we picked a bunch of trees for that to be done, and they're also going to start talking about trying to get some classes together at the libraries so that they can teach that too. And we also had I think I mentioned this, we also had a very good styrofoam collection. It was completely full, the 40-yard dumpster, and they're going to plan on trying to do that. It was a very big success. We're going to try and do some more of those. I want to thank everybody who was there to help out. The mayor was there, and Don showed up, and we had a good time with it also. It was very, very cold, but we had a good time. A lot better when it's nice weather, but you still got to go out there anyway. That's it for the environmental committee. One other thing I wanted to ask about is, maybe, I don't know if we do this now or do it later on, but I just wanted to point out that I want to try and ask the council what they think about extending our Christmas tree picking up events. My wife likes to keep the Christmas tree in the house for a lot longer than the 2 weeks that we're allowed to do. And I put it out there today, and the garbage men didn't pick it up. And I've also driven around a bunch of times and seen a lot more trees sitting out there. I guess at this point, I'm going to just take it down to the DPW. I'll probably have to try and cut it up and put it in bags, but I don't have a pickup truck to throw it in. I wanted to know if we could try and extend for the third week in January. And if not, then we'll just look into it. I'd like to ask about that. I don't know how to go about asking that, if I just work with Patrick or
Would you work that out, to see, if it could be done? Because I know there's other schedules that the DPW has, and just get back to Paul on it?
Thank
Or
you,
if
Mayor.
have-
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly could be done. After leaf season ends, we have more availability to take on projects, so it can be done. It just, does the mayor and council want to allocate the resources to get it done? And how long do we want to extend it? If it was put out today, you're talking about extending it a 4th week. So, do you want to extend it 4 weeks?
Well,
Instead of
is
the
anybody
2
else-
weeks that have now.
Anybody called to say that their trees are still out?
You get
If
them
people
all.
are calling, then maybe we should.
I did get a lot of them today, but some people just said, look, our cars are blocking it, so they're not seeing it. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. The garbage hauler was notified that the borough was picking up the first 2 weeks and that they were supposed to start collecting on the 15th. So it appears that that's not happening. I did remind them again today, or yesterday,
Yeah.
that they need to do that, and they did go back to a couple of streets today.
Well,
And
today
so
when today when I put my Christmas tree is actually touching my garbage can, so
Yeah.
they can't say they missed it.
Right. No, they should have
No,
collected
I
it.
had residents actually said, look, our cars are blocking it, so I know they didn't see it, but I need it to get picked up.
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
That's what I had remembered, and I think I talked to Patrick about today. I remembered that we pick up for the first 2 weeks, and then after that, the garbage men just took it away. And this was the first year that I'd actually, my wife is always, she extends, she likes the Christmas tree. We tend to keep it alive. And believe it or not, we have kept it alive for a month and a half. And she like, every year before this, I've put it out there and it's been gone away. I hadn't had to take it to the dump. But if it's okay, if it doesn't work out, then I'll cut it up and put it in a garbage bag and bring it to.
They'll come get it, but the difference being, and the council may give this consideration, that when it's picked up by the borough employees in the first 2 weeks, that material is taken down and shipped. If it's taken after the first 2 weeks by GATA, that material is taken to a landfill. So there is a stark difference between where that tree will end up. So we can either, the council can choose to continue having GATA pick it up, or we can have the borough pick it up. Or we could, to save our resources, maybe work out where in the 3rd and 4th weeks, when we know that there will be less pickups, maybe we do a pickup on Monday, expecting that people will have an opportunity to move it out over the weekend. We make a tour those 2 extra Monday mornings, because, touring the whole town does take, or at least that district, does take a fair amount of time. So maybe when we know there are going to be less trees in the 3rd and 4th week, we just do a Monday pickup those Mondays.
Ms. Brick has a-
It's funny you should say that. I mean, I actually talked to Mike Latour about my tree today, because it's been sitting out there for nine days now. I put it out last Sunday, not this previous Sunday, the Sunday before. We had ours up late because my daughter, had COVID down in Florida. They came up late, and I cut mine up into like 3 pieces because it was a monster. And I was always under the impression that and that's what Mike said. He goes, didn't the garbage men pick it up? I said, no, they haven't. So are we paying Gata for that service, or are we getting charged a premium for them to do that? Because if not, the simple solution is just let them take it. I could care less, quite frankly, whether it goes to the landfill or the chipper.
Yeah.
But,
We don't pay any more to Gata other than we pay a tonnage charge to the
Right.
landfill to collect, as opposed to, we don't pay
yeah,
to drop off.
I'd say it's a
to Gata.
fairly sporadic
Yeah.
amount of trees that are left that late in the year.
Yeah.
But, I just think, just have them come get it
Yeah,
still.
let
I mean,
Gata, remind them after the time
Sure.
that we do it, they have to pick up the tree.
Yeah, and we did today, and we will again tomorrow.
But-
They will pick it up. It's like a bulky item.
Mi-
right?
Mike
So-
wasn't sure how he was going to handle it. I don't know. He said, maybe I could go get it or not. He
Well,
didn't really.
Because he's a nice guy and he wants to accommodate where he can. But I think that would be more of an accommodation rather than
Well, yeah.
setting a new schedule borough-wide. Like any resident, if you called up and said, hey, I'm in this kind of bind, our DPW would always go to the lengths we can to, in this case, pick up a tree. But
I wasn't asking to do that. I
Oh,
knew
no,
there's
no,
a
I
schedule,
understand.
and I was gonna,
And-
and I thought it was picked up, but I just asked,
Yeah.
And I told you, if they didn't pick it up, I would throw in,
yeah,
cut, like you, I'd cut up
Yep.
the pieces, put it in a garbage bag, because I don't
Right,
have a
right.
car to put that in. I put it in a garbage bag, I'll take it, I'll empty it out of the garbage bags into the DPW.
right.
Why don't we reach out to Gator, let
Yeah.
them start that way, and then if not, then we add another day. Or another solution is get an artificial tree, put it in a box, put it in the attic.
That's what I do.
Hey, now.
I got one of those too already, too.
Paul, did you get yours at the Lions Club? Did it last that long?
Artificial tree also.
So you're all right to do that, Patrick? To look
Talk
into
to
it?
Gata and have them
Yes,
pick
please.
up. Absolutely.
Okay. Anyone else under new business or unfinished business?
I have something, Mayor. Yeah, thank you. The Library Board of Trustees held its reorganization meeting, and, before I announce the officers, really interesting that during the pandemic, the library's done its best to continue to provide services to the community, and I think they've done a nice job. This continues, and it continues to be a challenge to meet the needs of the community, but we're doing our best. We continue to offer virtual programming when possible for both adults and children. We did continue passport services by appointment only, though, so if you know anybody who's interested in passports, they need to make an appointment to do that. They are in prior years, prior to the pandemic, AARP had set up tax preparation for people. ARP reached out to us again and wants to try and do that, so we're trying to accommodate that in the back room of the library. So, continue to watch the town announcements, because things may change as conditions change, but right now, those are the plans to keep moving forward. So, for our reorganization, we elected officers. For President, Dave Marino; Vice President, Rick Vanderwen; Treasurer, Billy Smithison; Corresponding Secretary, Joanne Mitchell; Recording Secretary, Don Shalaro. So I offered it to someone else. They laughed in my face. So I continue to be the Recording Secretary for the Library Board, and I'll try again next year. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Rick?
Did everybody get a chance to read Patrick's memo, and did anybody get back to you about the alternate route for the police? Is that for discussion yet, or not quite yet?
Mayor?
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I did hear from one council member about it, and it is a topic we can discuss now if you're interested.
Sure. I mean, I read through it. It seemed like a reasonable way of becoming a police officer, although obviously we are a civil service town, and other towns aren't civil service, and I assume that's the way they hire.
More and more frequently, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so alternate route is becoming more popular. There are advantages to the borough in that we have an applicant who we can hire immediately and we don't have to pay to train. But there may be concerns about hiring an applicant who's not on the civil service list, which is, requires a competitive examination. And certainly, an applicant can do both. The good thing about this legislation, and should the borough decide to pass the ordinance required to allow us to hire alternate route candidates, there's no obligation to the borough. So we can make it on an applicant-by-applicant basis. If we feel that an applicant that has applied to us, not on the civil service competitive exam list, but they have their PTC certificate, we can consider them against any applicant we have on the civil service.
That's what I thought was appealing
Yeah.
about the whole concept.
Yeah.
Is, hey, you know,
What
it's
did-
another option.
What did the police say about this? How do they feel? Did you, you know?
I did. I spoke with Chief Messner about it, and his response was, you know, his concern was just about vetting any alternate route candidate to make sure it's done thoroughly so that we ensure we get the highest quality candidate for the borough. Because obviously, there's a good vetting process that goes on with a civil service applicant. And some of that we do on ourselves. Even if, you know, we have a candidate off a civil service list, they still get a psychological and a physical. You know, that would still take place. But Chief Messner, his only concern was the proper vetting of any alternate route candidate.
Harry, you had a question?
Yeah, I just had a comment on this proposal. Alternate route candidates are taken into the police academy. They apply and get in, and I feel it leaves the borough open to nepotism charges, because on the civil service exam, there's no question. You interview, if you have one spot, you interview number 1, 2, and 3, and number 1 is usually hired. Whereas if you do hire that person, to put them through the academy, the cost is minimal for the give back of a number 1 employee who passed the civil service test and came out number 1. It's a minimal cost to the borough on a 25-year investment in a career. So you taking someone who went into the academy alternate route, they're not sitting number 1 on the exam. They could be sitting number 7, but just because they have that, they already went through the academy as an alternate route, they're jumping ahead of all of these candidates who worked hard to be number 1, number 2, number 3, simply because they had the money to pay through the academy. Not every college graduate has the money to put themselves through the academy, and I think on a 25-year investment in a career, it's worth it to the borough to take a number 1 seat as opposed to someone who went alternate route in the academy. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, my only one response in that, you're concerned about nepotism. The state does require that the municipality adopt an anti-nepotism policy by ordinance. So we already have one in our handbook, but this would add another layer of having that by ordinance, because I imagine the state would be concerned with the same types of potentials for nepotism. So I don't know if that completely, satisfies your concern, but it's at
It
least
doesn't
at least
at
something
all.
to keep in mind.
It doesn't at all.
There's towns that have done that. They put people in because they're related somehow, and it caused a lot of problems.
And my concern too is that people get into the academy on alternate route because of who they know or what they know. So I feel with the civil service exam, you're picking number 1. And if you have to pass by number 1 because they failed the psychological test or whatever, why you would have a good reason to pass number 1, then you would go to number 2. I just feel it's much fairer hiring practice, and as opposed to chiefs towns, where it's just willy-nilly how they hire, at least in Waldwick, we have the civil service exam that gives us the best person as number 1.
Do you want to put this to a vote, or do you want to, go ahead, Don.
Let's talk.
So, but Patrick, you said even if we adopt this, we could still choose to go the civil service route.
Absolutely, yeah. And
So my thinking would be, we probably should give ourselves more options for hiring from a larger pool than restricting ourselves to the civil service list. I'm not saying they wouldn't be qualified or eligible or worthy. I'm just saying as an employer, you want to draw from the largest pool possible, and this gives you more options to do that.
But we are a civil service town.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we
And
think-
sometimes that doesn't serve us well.
Exactly. I mean, I think we've had past experience where we look, I mean, in a perfect world, the person that does the best on the test is the best person, but there's more to it than that. It's certainly, I mean, you could be a great test taker and be a royal screw-up in other parts, and...
that's why you would go to
Well, yeah, but it's not always that easy. We had an incident in our town here where we tried to do something, and it came back, and we ended up coming full circle. And I can't agree more with Don. I think the more people in the pool, the merrier. And, you know, if this person really put all the time and effort in and excelled and did well on the test, it's going to come through on their interviews. They're going to get the job. I don't think we're preventing them from getting the job by having these other applicants there, but it gives us a little bit of an opportunity if we do find an issue where we're almost forced by the civil thing. It's, you know, it's a matter of, I guess, belief. I mean, we are a civil service town. I always thought it was kind of an unusual way of doing things, to tell you the truth, but that's what we are, and that's what we have to do. But this is the first time I've seen an alternate to it, and I like the idea.
Yeah, I just don't know enough about it yet. I'd like to take some time to learn about how these individuals get into the alternate route, understand that process some more, understand what the vetting would be like if they went alternate route, just make an educated vote on the matter.
What you should do is speak with Patrick about it.
Yep.
And if you have to, we can have the police chief come and speak with you, you know, and Patrick, you know, in downstairs, so that you have an idea of what's going on and how you feel.
I'd appreciate it. Yeah, just so
Okay.
just so we can.
If any, and anybody here who wants to do that, just reach out to Patrick, and Patrick can set up a time in which they could have the police chief or one of the lieutenants come in and explain everything. And even if, you know, our attorney would be more than happy also to, you know, not educate you, but explain to you the different ways and
Yeah.
why one, you know, the different.
I think everyone raised some really good points. That's the problem I have here. So I just want to do some more thinking.
Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I did talk to Patrick about this, and we discussed several different reasons. And I mean, one of the biggest things for the town is that we would save the money that, because you're paying a full salary for the person while he goes to the academy. Whereas you don't have to, the people who want to get on up there, in a sense, you are right. They are buying themselves through the academy, and they're getting a better chance to get up the list. The civil service test, and I'm private industry, I'm not civil service, and civil service test tends to try and decide who's the best person. But then there's also somewhat of an alternative route, and I'm not saying this against the military at all, but the military people, they just jump right up to the top without even they can take the test and everything, but it doesn't matter what they get, they go right up to the top also. And that is, in somewhat, is an alternate route, considered an alternate route also in my mind. Now, mind you, it's an alternate route where they still have to go to the academy. But, so they kind of go around the test also. So is the test really working in this situation? I mean, obviously, it's the civil service. I don't know a lot about civil service because I've never been in it, and I don't have any family members that have ever been in it. And it certainly is very good for the town. However, in this instance, you don't have to pick that person that goes alternate route. You have to, you just put them into the pool for an extra person instead of just 3 people. You're going to have 4 people. It doesn't mean you have to pick that person. That's all in the interviewing. They put a committee together, and they interview the 3 people, and then they interview the alternate person, and then they choose between them. And yes, you're right. The nepotism is that's supposed to be taken care of, and it's read into the regulations to take the nepotism out of there. Does it happen all the time? I don't know. Not supposed to, but it probably does. But it is you got the test numbers to take. I mean, do you take a person who's you like the person who's number 3, but he got a less test number than a number 1? So it really comes down to the interview. It just puts those people in a process, into a group, and then the alternate route also puts them into a group. So I would be for it, but that's when we come back.
Okay, thank you. We'll discuss this. You know, anybody have any questions, just speak with the Patrick. Anybody else? If not, public comment. Anybody from the public would like to comment on anything, kindly come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Janet Haskell, 98 Longview Drive. Regarding the issue we were just talking about, the person that goes alternate route, is that because they couldn't pass the civil service test? I mean, I don't know. But also, I was wondering if you would, like, talk to other towns? How many other towns are civil service and how many are not? And, you know, maybe that's a determining factor. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. When they meet with Patrick, Patrick could, look into the other towns also and get ideas of how they're doing it too.
Okay.
But I'd really like for the police to have a lot of say in this because it is in their interest. And it's their department. And I think they have to be comfortable with what, you don't want to have any problems down the road. There's pros and cons on everything, and I think we have to just understand what our police department is also thinking. Anyone else from the public? Sir? 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 Lift your, you gotta, you gotta put your mask on, because then they're gonna have to evict you.
Well, it's bothering my ears. They're starting to protrude this way. As I look around, all you guys are having the same trouble. 10 years from now, all our ears are going to be forward. I would like to take this opportunity, Al Colden, 34 Dante Place. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Santacola and Mr. Ritchie to the council. I wish it's a great couple of years. Sometime it's a lot of fun. And sometime it isn't. But regarding the Christmas trees, we don't take ours down till probably March 1st. I take it down, and we got such beautiful 10-foot trees that I take it in the back of my yard. I tie it to another tree for a couple months. And it really looks great. The birds love it. Then when I'm ready and I happen to find time, I cut off every limb by limb. It takes about 20 minutes. And I fill up a big garbage can. And about that time, I think it's time for branches and limbs, right? I put it out on the curb and they take it and it's no problem. As a matter of fact, when does that start, branches and limbs?
April 12th.
April. I have to keep my tree up till April.
You do every year. It's always in April.
Well, I do that, every year and it seems to work out pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So can Councilman Schatz bring his tree to your backyard?
Yeah.
I get the buds to grow, I get the tree to buds to grow.
He doesn't have a
back up
truck.
the tree, believe it or not.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Councilman Ritchie, second by Councilwoman Siricola. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Good night, everyone. And if you need to get rid of your tree, 34 Dante Place.
Dump it in the front yard.
Thanks.